Y'all, if you listen to our shows, you know old Big O has no trouble talking up the things I believe in. But old Joe, he just ain't very big on using the podcast here to promote the incredible things ElkBros has going on. But tonight, myself and my brother Guy Duplantier are turning the tables. We're co-hosting the show tonight, and we have a very special guest. We have Joe Gillia himself, the guest in the hot seat, and it is on. You have to hear what is happening with the ElkBros Adventures and our Adventure Club. I'll tell you this, what this dude has done, gone and created, there's nothing like it. You do not want to miss this one, because you just might find yourself hunting with the ElkBros next year. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to a special edition of Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillia. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And as always, for our blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host of your show, coming to you today from Spring, Texas. And joining me today, my awesome co-host from the Western Contours podcast and the CEO of Western Fly Covers, Mr. Guy Duplantier is in the house. And we have none other than the man, the myth, the legend, WWJGD is in the house, and our guest talker tonight, Joe Gillia, is in the house. What's going on, fellas?
What up, man? I think he was trying to do some sound effects over there, man.
He didn't try. He got it done, Joe.
It's my live audience, baby.
Yeah, we got the live audience going on, man. We appreciate everybody
boys?
tuning in with us tonight.
Pull that microphone over to you, man, because I'm still not hearing you.
You got some bad ears, dude. It's so loud in my
That's
head.
no doubt.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head, brother.
Why is it?
You have I'm
Test,
above
test,
0
test,
dB
test,
on this board.
Test. Okay.
And if I get any closer to that mic, you're gonna have to X-rate this episode, especially for YouTube.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Yeah. What up?
When you get these three together, I'm telling you never know what's going to happen. Joe might have to get his cuckoo button going, that's for sure.
I think I got one of those too. Let me see. I think I got
You got a cuckoo?
I got a freaking a sensor.
Oh.
My brother.
I made sure that one's live just for Joe.
Well, I tell you what, boys, this is special, man. What we're going to be talking about tonight is something that Joe is really not accustomed to doing. And he holds me back, Guy. I mean, he really jerks my choke chain when I start trying to advertise a little bit on the podcast of, just what we really do. And there's a lot of our listeners out there that they know us by the podcast, and they know, we love to elk hunt and we teach elk hunting and stuff like that, but they don't know that we're a full-fledged corporation, man, and that we have a business side to what we do. So tonight it's going to be all about poking fun at El Jefe and talking about what we do best, man, which, man, it's kill elk and really some vision that Joe and I had 10 years ago coming to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, as we get into talking about what EBA is and the coached hunts and stuff like that, right?
Wait a second. What is? Huh?
I love it, dude. I'm letting him freelance, brother. EBA, baby.
EBA? Yeah.
That one's going to get used a bunch. ElkBros Adventures, sir.
Okay.
So I think that, for me to preface this entire episode, right, is what's on the website there is give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to hunt elk and he's frustrated a lifetime.
We need to put that as a disclaimer for sure.
But I mean that there couldn't be a better description of what this means and the mission and then what we're trying to accomplish right across the board with all the coaches and the mission behind ElkBros Adventures, right? I mean, you kind of hear it. And it almost becomes cliche to a point, if I'm being honest, when we talk about, flattening the learning curve. I really, that is what it is, but, we're teaching a man to fish so we can feed him for a lifetime. I mean, that's really what this mission is and, what we're trying to produce and just make more efficient, better, confident hunters, man. And, I want to preface the episode with that as we grill old Joe here. On his vision and how he's coordinating that vision there.
For sure. Guy, I don't think you could have put it any better, Guy. You're one of our Elk Bros coaches, and you've been in elk camp with us a couple of years and coaching some of our coached hunts, and you've seen it live in action, and you've actually seen it evolve. I tell you, even this year, Guy was not able to join us because he had some other things going on, the move and everything else, and we missed Guy. I mean, any day I can spend on the mountain with Guy Duplantier is a really great day. So it was rough not having our brother with us, but what Joe did this year, and we'll get to that, was streamline the process and made it so much better. I mean, every time we've done this, we've evolved just a little bit more, but I'm going to, kind of kick it to Joe and ask him, how did this process, Joe, how did you come up with this process or this idea, right? And talk about, where it spawned from. Talk about, everybody knows you and I've been hunting together for many years, and we tell them why we wanted to get back to some private land and some of the things that we got coming up, right?
Yeah, so actually, all this is Gil's fault. All of this started out just trying to share some wisdom, man, developing an academy, right? And creating a course, an online course in my style of the things that I do and what I did and how I coach and how I teach, and to do that. And so we really started the podcast so that we could develop our target audience and let people know what was out there. Otherwise, it's just a tree falling in the forest, right? Yeah. And I mean, God, dude, I mean, all of this stuff that has happened, I could kill you, dude. Honestly, man. I mean, it's like...
Well, I'm sure your wife don't like me anymore. I might wear out my welcome.
Oh, man, it's just like every time I think we're busy enough, we get more busy, man. But, and so... we're doing this and we're doing the podcast and we're hunting together and we're having a blast and then Gil calls me up one day and he said, "Man, have you seen this competition? There's this competition thing called Hunt Wars, bro. You and me got to get in this, right?" And I was like, "What the heck is he talking about, man?" Remember that call?
Yeah, I do, 100%, man. I said, we'll kill everybody, bro. I said, I'm telling you, we'll tell you, it'd be like, taking candy from babies. Let's get it on.
So I went and I watched the first season of Hunt Wars, right?
Yeah.
And basically Hunt Wars it's a level playing ground competition where people, they just for, I think it's $100, they could put themselves in for a lottery. If they get drawn, they had a full paid hunt. They came out and they, the person that won it could either be the caller or they could be the shooter, and they bring a partner with them. they show up in these camps and then they hunt. And because hunters are competitive by nature, dude. I mean, yeah, they can call it a competition, but it's not like this thing of like you're just going out and killing as many elk. It's nothing like that, man. And when I started learning about Hunt Wars and how it had the ethics and everything behind it, and what the whole thing was about was just really showing the real grind of hunters. I mean, because you guys know on YouTube, right?
Highlight reel, baby.
Highlight reel, man. And it's like guys go out, yeah, I showed up, I just drove 24. Dude, the drive alone to go elk hunting,
no doubt,
can
be adventurous.
The drive alone. I mean, we've had stories with Gil, man, when he ends up in Wacky Mountain, New Mexico,
broke down, can't get a tire off. One of your buddies had to weld my dadgum tire, had to cut the dang lug nuts off, and I mean it's one thing after another. My cousin rented me some Maypop tires on his car.
Gil's telling me, he's like,
trailer.
Bro, there's people circling me around here, man. I got my 45. I was like, Gil, dude, you got a town.
Yeah, they're exactly right. I'm fitting to shoot somebody, and all they're wanting to do is try to figure out why is this truck and trailer, sitting on the side in our town,
Yeah.
and all they want to do is come help and find out what's going on. But I'm ready to take somebody's head off. Come from a little bit different demographic down here. Somebody rolls up on you here in H-Town, you better figure out what's up,
Oh, yeah. And so, it's just the drive alone. So people they don't get to see the real grind. And that's why I think we have so many people that they go out in day one, and if they don't hear a bugle or if they don't see an elk, it's like, what am I doing, right?
Yeah, ain't none here.
Well, number one, you're hunting, right? So, so I watched that first episode or that first year of Hunt Wars, and so they have rules like you get a deduction in points for every like 10 yards beyond 40 yards. You get a deduction. You get a benefit in points for the more mature the animal is, and anybody can win. Anybody can become a star of the show. So people put in, a name gets drawn, and they could be from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Shout out to my hometown. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, have never hunted elk in their life, end up in, I think that year they were in the Gila in New Mexico, hunting elk, right? And you got guys that have never called before. They don't know what an elk smells like. They've never seen an elk, and they show up to elk camp there. And so in that first season, they had these guys out there hunting that were literally trying to learn how to call in camp, right?
Yeah.
And what it ended up being was Groundhog Day of the same guys making the same mistakes time after time after time, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I'm watching this and I'm like, I'm going nuts, because I'm like, how much education is real? Because that's the other part of the show, is it's supposed to help educate people that want an elk hunt, because you can see the grind, you can see the different things, and you can learn from other people's mistakes. Well, it was hard to learn from the same mistake happening time after time. So I reached out to Hunt Wars, and when I did, I just threw out an email. I was like, what if these guys, before they got out there hunting, what if they had 2 months of training in elk hunting before they ever even got out there? And I said, and then what if they actually had a coach in camp that could even go in the field with them and not do anything for them other than observe and help them with their options and help them when they make mistakes, to give them suggestions, to help so that they're not making the same mistake time after time after time. And then imagine how great that educational content would be, talking about the mistake and talking about the options to do that for other people to learn from. Well, man, Troyman just went nuts over. I mean, I got an email the next day, and then next thing I know that we're on a conversation, and getting that set up. And on season 2, their next season, I coached all of the Hunt Wars athletes. I coached all of them prior to, I think we started, gosh, I think it was like the end of June. So it might have been middle of June or beginning of June, all the way through there until they got to elk camp, right? And then we had Eric and we had Cole that was in camp with them, right?
Cole Wilkes and Eric Aragon.
Right. But
Two
see,
of our awesome
in that
out-road
season, they had decided, well, we don't know if we want them out in the woods with them. They can help out in camp and stuff like that, but and then talk to the guys and let them tell them what their issues are and help train them and stuff like that. So in year one, we did that. Well, so when you have a coach, you got the athletes, you got the hunters out in the field, and these are guys that some of them have experience. Some of them had some good elk hunting experience. Some of them did not, right? In that first year, we had teams that were from Arizona. We had teams that were from Colorado. We had teams from Wyoming. We had one team from Idaho that they had never hunted elk before. They had never hunted big game with a bow before.
With a bow, that's right.
They were at ground zero, right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And Jonathan and Brenton. And when we started that whole process, people were like, oh, we ain't worried about those dudes, right?
Little did they know. WWJGD done spit wisdom all over them.
Well, the thing was, it's like when you're coaching you have kids that come in on a basketball team that have already developed a skill set. Sometimes they're hard to change the habits they already have, right?
That's right, or buy into your system.
Yeah, because when they get the pressure, even though they're going to buy into it, and once they get in a pressure situation, they go back to what they know, right?
Yeah,
well,
that's right.
Jonathan and Brenton just stayed, and man, I wish I could play all of these guys' recordings of the calling from beginning to end, But they did the playbook.
We'll save our listeners' ears.
Yeah, they did the playbook.
Yeah,
and they were the only ones to kill an elk in season 2, and these are guys that had never called elk. Brenton had never done anything. That dude lost 30 or 40 pounds, bro, to get out there. I mean, just did the things to do things right. So when we did this, and the hard part was, and this helped us out, was, you have athletes in the field, you have coaches in camp, right? That's like telling your basketball coach to stay in the locker room.
Not watch the game.
And don't watch the game, and then let the athletes come to you and describe what's going on in the game. How well do you think that goes across, right?
Yeah, like a turd in a punch bowl.
Yeah, it don't work because everybody has different perceptions. Those kids don't know how to be, you got an experienced eye and a coach, and then you have these guys that are struggling, and they don't know why they're struggling. How do they explain that, really, And and my coaches, my coaches were fit to be tied, man, sitting in camp all day long. I mean, they were like, all right, we'll do this again, but if we do this again and we got to stay in camp, count me out.
Yeah.
That's like taking a stallion, man, and tying it to a daggum tree and letting all the rest of them go play in the woods,
Yeah.
It didn't.
Joe, so you brought up the playbook, right? And I think that's worth a little bit of description and talk about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the playbook for a moment so folks understand what that looks like and what you're referencing as that comes up.
So every one of the contestants, whether caller or shooter, got the base camp online elk hunting course that I created, right?
And where can you find that at, Joe?
You go to ElkBros.com, man. Everything Elk Bros is there, man. You can go to ElkBros.com. You can find our academy. And that academy is done in a way that no other course is done. So I've been a school teacher for 30 and a coach for 34 years, right? And one thing that I can tell you, one of the reasons I think schools fail kids is because of we do things with kids that we do opposite when we coach. What we do with kids is we start giving them all this information without any idea. It's almost like playing a video game, man, without any idea of how or why or making that information something that is useful to them, right? Yep. So we give them, it's a pyramid. We give them all this information hoping that by the time they get to the top, they've got something that's going to help them to take them into the world and that education so that they can go further. Well, man, it's hard that way. And I actually turn it upside down. Yeah. What I do is, and it's the same thing you do with athletes. I mean, when you guys are teaching skills to your kids, man, you're teaching them how on a hit to steal from third, right? Yeah. Well, they might never be on third base in a game, but when they get there and they need to score, they know what to do, right? That's right. Yep. You know? So it's the same thing with a football team, man. Why is it the football teams can play a friggin' 3 quarters, but you put 2 minutes on the clock and they're scoring in under 2 minutes, right?
They run that drill every day.
They run that drill. They know what it looks like. They know how to finish. And what you hear is the difference between winning teams and losing teams is one team knows how to finish, right? Yeah. And I do the same thing when I coach a pole vaulter. I'm teaching a pole vaulter what it feels like to clear a bar before they ever get there. You know, with my basketball team, I'm teaching them how to score a basket with 2.2 seconds on the clock on an inbounds play, right? So that when they get in that situation, they know how to finish, bro. So that's the exact same thing that I did with the course is I take that moment most in your control, that last 30 seconds to a minute with that elk standing in front of you to teach you how to close the deal. Because here's the fact is I don't care about all this stuff on the bottom. I don't care about how you camp, what equipment you use, what forest you go in. I don't care whether you call, don't call. I don't care whether you stalk, use glasses. I don't care what you use to get to that moment. If you don't know what to do in that moment, and you might get there by mistake, but if you don't know what to do in that moment, it's just a story of woulda, coulda, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. That's all it is. And how many people say, man, I just needed that one more step. I just didn't have a lane. I went to draw back and I had a tree in the way. You know, the daggone elk was walking in.
Me.
Yeah, drew back and he busted me.
Yeah, he drew back, and that's the thing about that, bro. How many people we talked to say I drew back and he busted me and went off, and they didn't know if you just or you just do a little. He is going to stop 20 yards out there, turn broadside and look back, and you can kill. It's not over when he busts you, right? No.
Far from it.
That animal is just reacting. That animal is reacting from their natural instinct to survive, that something moved close to me. I don't know what it is, so I'm going to get away enough so I can turn and see what it is, because it could be a cow elk on the ground. It could be another bull that stepped out. You know, it.
Especially if they haven't smelled you.
Yeah, well, if they smelled you, it's over, right? Yeah. So that's the thing that I try to do in the academy is teach people how to finish, how to put themselves in a position, and even if they get busted, and what to do if they get busted, and when to draw, and how to set up, right? And that's right. You get there, and you're starting to see that animal. Once you see that animal, you're done looking at that animal, man. You're just like a quarterback scanning the field. You're looking at, okay, where's the possible travel routes? Where's my shooting lanes? What if he moves over to this direction? At what point am I going to throw a call back? All of this stuff that, some people might have to think a lot about goes through my head just like that now, man, when I'm looking at it. Everything else is happening, right? Do I have to take a step? Is there other things that are going to happen? So that's where I start, is that moment most in their control. Yeah. So it's the same thing in a basketball game. At 2.2 seconds, you got the ball in your hand. Who's in control, right?
The guy with the ball.
Yeah, the guy with the ball. So this is when you are in the most in your control of any part of the hunt because you have that animal right there. And now you got to know what to do so that you can efficiently, effectively, responsibly take that animal, right? Okay. So, and I think that's the difference, dude. That is absolutely the difference. And we were talking about killers and stuff on our last episodes. And you talk about killers that are out there. It's because those folks move into position without even thinking about it and get it done. And they're going to move at times when most people would not move, right? So that's where we start in the academy. We start with that, and then we come backwards, because now when I talk about setting up, when I talk about the setup, anything that I talk about in the setup now has a relationship to what you're going to have to do next. Why? Because you just came from there, right?
Yeah, and all of it's in the playbook.
It's right there, man.
Yeah.
So now when you're talking about setup, it's not foreign to you, and it doesn't not make sense, and you don't like have to guess how you're going to use that, because you just came from there. You know exactly why, when, how, and that we're doing what we're doing. And then from there I come back on that to response, because that's a big part of it. Now you think about that. I've called, I got a response. How in the heck do I respond to that, man? How many people hear that response and go, okay? and then what's happening?
Yeah.
They point, right? And now you can just see the friggin' wheel spinning, right? What do I do? Do I go? Do I stop? Do I call? And I will tell you, a high percentage of people that get a response stay right there and continue to call, right? Go ahead.
I was going to say a caveat, right, is understanding as you work backwards that may be the case you're in, right? But working back from the relationship standpoint, as you work out of that, 2.2 seconds, right, now you can evaluate, do I stay, do I go?
Absolutely.
I think that's a big hole that the academy fills with that, right? I mean, how many years of experience does it take for you to get into that situation enough to where you're comfortable there?
Absolutely.
Right?
And you kind of know what you're going to do.
And to also to understand that setups are dynamic, man. This setup turns into that setup, turns into that setup, turns into that setup. So you always have to be aware when you're going to the next setup, because of what's going on around you and all the variables. You got to know naturally how to put yourself in the best position. You got, even as much as footwork, right?
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I've seen that stand with their friggin' legs apart, looking at that elk straight ahead of them. You can't shoot like that.
Right.
It's like if you're going
but it's not recommended.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man, right there.
Joe,
Figure that out. Let me know.
I harken back to, and I don't want to beat up on a bunch of stories because we got a lot of stuff to cover, but I had Cookie with me this year in adventure camp, and letting him run things after a few days of him being with me, he makes a big loud bugle, right? We hadn't been hearing a whole lot. It just got done raining. I told him, I said, well, let's work on some bugles, man. Crank off a big, nasty bugle, He cranks off this big, nasty bugle, and a long way off, man, he gets a reply right back to him, and he goes, and he comes, he's probably about 45 yards from me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. He got an answer, his first answer ever, right? Mm-hmm. And so he comes walking over there to me, and he goes, do you think that bull was answering me? I said, yes, I do. And you need to answer him back. He goes, for real? I said, every time that bull bugles, I want you to cut him off and bugle back at him. I don't know how far that bull was, probably a mile and a half. Joe, we called that bull into 41 yards. I say he called that bull into 41 yards and he just didn't know he was doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he's looking at me and I'm pointing back at him. Go, 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 right back at him. And then before you know it, that bull is breathing down our neck, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't know. He didn't know just to keep going and
and
keep
look what
doing
you got
it.
incorporated together, because you got the calling, the response, and the setup all like happening in circular motion, right?
For sure.
It's just like bouncing from one back to the other.
And we called him across a barrier, right? So, I mean, that's even off of some private land, man. I mean, it's just not an easy thing to do. And what I told Cookie is, you just accomplished one of the hardest things in the whole daggum thing to do, and you really didn't know you were doing it. You just knew enough to keep just making that same bugle, and it was great, man. It was exactly what the doctor ordered. I said, you don't need to do nothing else when they're responding like that and they're worked up. I said, you just got to keep rolling with it. But being, just like you said for the Hunt Wars, if he would have come back and told me that, it would have been a whole lot less different than me being with him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, we had that deal closed. It just, he didn't understand what to do once the bull came in there, and bull stops at 41 yards and he's standing there like, oh my God, I can't draw. The bull's looking at me, So we had some work to do on the finishing part, right? But that's what the base camp does, is it gives you an idea of how the playbook runs. And then once they get there, then it's up to the hunter to use what he's learned and be able to, draw. I tell everybody in our failure mechanisms, the number one failure mechanisms I've watched all of our hunters go through is not drawing their bow.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I mean, 100%, without question, they didn't draw their bow, so they get no opportunity, And that's what the base camp really slams home,
that's
man.
about, man, because it goes, and then you come back to the calling, and then you come back to the finding elk, right?
Yeah.
And because I go from what's most in your control to the thing that's least in your control, right? And as far as all the variables, it gets big down at the bottom. The land gets big, man, when it comes to finding out. But there's ways of doing shortcuts on that if you just learn to have a different eye and a different feel, right?
And it talks about it in the base camp on what to look for, right? That's why we're very proud of what Joe's created. And, there's several of us that have had input in that, and it's ongoing, the stuff Joe uses in that format. But it's that format that makes us successful at ElkBros.com. And that base camp is so important for our hunters and for our ElkBros adventure campers, right?
So what I do is I go in and with those Hunt Wars guys, I take that playbook basically, and I teach them that. And then a huge part of it is teaching these guys how to call, and not just call, but then, how to have the nuance, how to give the realism, talking about when to call. And it doesn't have to, especially, with a lot of this stuff, it doesn't have to be severely complicated. And what Brenton and Jonathan took away is most people, when they think about calling, is they are just moving through, going to a point, and they're doing a location bugle, waiting for an answer. They don't get an answer, they're moving on, right? So what they're trying to do is directly engage with a bull. They are actually hunting the bull that wants to play. They are hunting that one bull out of 20 that's going to give themselves away. And one thing that I teach in my playbook is if you're hunting 1 out of 20, you're hunting 5% of the bulls that are out there. So how effective is that, right? So what I try to teach these guys is it's not always about directly engaging. A lot of time it's about creating an environment that invites elk to come to you. And that's the biggest thing that I teach, is that if you're waiting on a chance encounter, if you're waiting on that, then it's either going to happen the percentages, when you take the amount of land, now there's ways you can improve those odds by getting around where the food is, getting around the water is, staying up.
Yeah, Joe, but how many bulls we killed that are silent?
Oh, well, and that's what I'm saying, bro.
Maybe 75% of them.
Well, me, it's 80%. 80% of the bulls I've killed have been silent bulls, right?
Yeah,
because, look, it's so much harder for me to sneak in on them. And it can be done in the right situations. I love doing it. It can be done, right? But that means you got to locate it. You got to see it. You got to get on all of that stuff. It's so much easier for me to go in on them than it is if they're moving, coming to me, and I'm still, right?
Sure.
Now they're looking for something. Now they're moving. And if they are moving, that woods are moving around them.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I teach in my playbook and what Jonathan and Brenton did was they used scenario calling, put themselves in situations. Get this. Jonathan, I can't tell you how many bulls he had come in that he saw that didn't end up in a shooting situation, right? And day after day, he'd go over to Brent and he'd go, "Did you see that one?" And there was finally a point when he shoots that bull, right? And he goes, "Did you see him coming in?" Brenton says, "Dude, I've been calling for 5 days. You've had all these bulls you keep telling about, and I haven't seen one yet," because that wasn't his job.
Classic caller, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't his job. Yeah. So when we were doing this with Hunt Wars, and through the coaching, and then it progressed to year 2, we had coaches go in the field with them, right?
Boots on the ground,
Yeah, and in seeing this, and in this process, and I got to thank, Britt, Troy, Will, all those guys at Hunt Wars, because ElkBros Adventures was born out of that, because in doing that out there, it was like, and we kept having all these people that were like, "Man, I want to hunt with the ElkBros, right?
Yeah.
We want to hunt with y'all. We want to do this. We want to learn." And I was like, okay, so Hunt Wars had its thing going on, but how do we work with those people that? So we did, first of all, we did a hunt with the ElkBros, right?
Yeah, giveaway. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a giveaway, and to have that experience, and then, this whole thing of hunting with the ElkBros. When you think of doing that, there's a lot of logistical issues with that, right? Because that means somebody would have to draw a tag that wanted to hunt with the ElkBros. Or we would have to have tags for them so that they could hunt for us. So things just fell in, dude, and we were able, and look, y'all listening, I want you to understand something. For me, I think probably the biggest check I ever wrote in my life, man, was a monthly deal to pay for my home. And even like, I think there was a point, to buy a vehicle, you had to do something like $5,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But
Joe got sick at his stomach.
Oh, dude, man, when somebody comes to you to landowner tags and they said, "Okay, you're going to be paying us $45,000 for those landowner tags," it's like, I'm going to what?
It's a year's salary.
But
yeah.
But we went that route, and we bought the land. We bought all these landowner tags so we could take 5 people elk hunting. So the whole thing was we had to buy all the tags so that we could get the archery tag, so we could set up a coached hunt on National Forest land. And then we sold the rest of the tags to be able to pay for our bill to have those tags to take those people, right? And
that's right.
People don't understand the stress that goes along with that, right? Yeah. In the background, you don't get to see that. So we did it.
Yeah, or the scrutiny either, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been on some forums where they're like, "Y'all are raping people off," and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
man.
Come on, man. We run a business, bro. I don't come to your business and tell you you're ripping people off. You might be a roofer or a plumber or whatever, man, and you feel like your labor rate is exactly what it's worth. Give us our opportunity to make our labor rate, you know?
And listen to this, though, bro. When you purchase an elk hunt, a guided elk hunt, you pay that money, right? Yeah. Nothing happens with you until you get to camp. And then when you get to camp, you're going to have a guide, and that guide is going to take you out there. And most of the time, all you're going to see is that dude's rear end till you get in position, and he's going to say, do this, get you that opportunity. Hopefully you kill that animal. Game over. You're getting your animal and you're going home. What did you learn from that?
Yeah.
You know? And when we do a coached elk hunt, man, we had guys for 2-3 months. That we had multiple coaches. You, Gil, Guy Duplantier, Luis, Chav, RC, myself, right? Even we even had Travis from Canada, man, that was doing constant work with each of these people, each of these 4 or 5 guys that were coming out. So we're doing this contact stuff with people month in advance that we got to pay for, right?
Yes.
So we're paying people to coach them all this time. It's not coming out of their pocket. It is in their package price. In our first year with that first group, we charged $6,500 for people to get 2.5 months of education from 8 different dudes, right, with years of experience, then come into a camp, and in camp, getting food, right?
Yeah,
and getting
meals
coached,
every day. Yeah.
Getting coached by multiple coaches in that
not
camp.
Just one. Yep.
And, so...
And the different experiences that you get to go through, right?
Yep,
for sure.
I mean, base camp, spike out, right? I mean, it just 80 sessions. If you just did the math, right? If it's 8 of us, and it's 2.5 months, call that what, 10 weeks?
Yeah.
That's 80 sessions of coaching in almost every single facet of an elk hunt, from e-scouting to calling to your equipment, what frickin' footwear system you should have on, arrows, failure points, right? I mean,
pillows.
So you're talking, I mean, you just split that up, right? What's the value of each of those sessions?
Yeah.
Pull that off of the total cost, and then there's your tag cost.
I had dudes sending me videos all hours, man, of them calling and different things, so that then I'm redoing a video and sending that back to them, right? Going back and forth. So, just the education alone of that. I mean, you think about this, man. You think about what people have spent just not on a private hunt, on a OTC hunt.
Sure.
And
over the counter,
everything that they've spent to get out there to have that OTC hunt for 5 to 10 to whatever days, but most people average 5 to 7 days, right?
That's right. Yeah.
If you're lucky, you can get away from 10. But they do that. If you do 5 days, and I don't know, Guy, how much did it cost you to come from California to come out to Colorado and hunt?
I mean, not counting time off of work, a couple grand. You got gas, you got food, you got tag cost, out of state,
I guarantee you had
Texas,
to be
40,
pretty close to $3,000, right?
It's $4,500 for me. Yeah.
I mean, if I add, I never paid attention to it.
Yeah, and probably don't want to, but
you know what I mean? It was like you did what you wanted to do, and that's just how it was. And if there was a budget, then you just worked inside that budget the best you could. But you figure a non-res tag at the time was $750.
Yep.
Right, and then you figure driving the truck out, you got 300, so that's 1,000 there. You're missing time off work at 3,500, 3,600.
You don't even count that, man. We don't want to count that, right?
Right. But I mean, it's you got to account for it.
And if you came out for 5 days and stumbled around in the forest with no clue, and you did that for 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. You had 1 month of elk hunting education, and let's just say you spent, let's say $3,000. That's $15,000 that you spent to get 1 month of elk hunting education. And we were bringing guys out on an actual elk hunt, with months of preparation, with coaches in the field, not telling them, follow me, and I'm just going to show you where the animal is so you can kill it, because that's not what we do. We are about teaching a man how to fish,
empowering them,
right? We're not going to change the tire for them. We're going to teach them how to change the tire, because next week when they roll down and they get a flat tire and they don't know what to do, they're going to go, well, I didn't learn nothing from that, right?
One of the things I want Guy to elaborate on is Guy got to see that firsthand, especially in our second season where he was one of our coaches. Talk about the evolution of the calling part, Guy, because you saw what it looked like in the first year and then versus the second year. And you really made a point of talking to us about, man, these guys got to get better at that part of it, or this doesn't even work. Well, even up to the point where you were coaching a couple individuals, and we just had to come back to camp, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to rewind so we don't jump around too much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come right back to that, Gil. I just want to make a couple points. So if we say 8 guys for 10 weeks, and what's someone charge for personal training or coaching? I'm going to say $50 an hour. How much?
$100 to $200 an hour.
Okay. I got this figured. I just wanted to do the quick math. I put it at $50, right?
Gotcha.
So 80 sessions times 5 is $2,000.
Yeah.
Right? So, or yeah, $4,000. $4,000.
Yeah.
So then now I got the tag cost, plus I got coached hunt and all the training. I'm spending $2,500, and you're getting 250 years of experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
We talked about it as soon as we opened, the flatten the learning curve part. Like, what is it worth to you? So now you have all this experience. You're working from that finish point, and you're building that information up. Plus, you're in camp doing it. I mean, for some people, that's going to take them a year or two to save. I get it, right? But you're not hitting the $15,000 mark, and you're not waiting 3 to 4 to 5 years on those hunts. Like,
I know some dudes that have been hunting 10 years and still have yet to ever, draw back on an animal, right? And we had guys that came into camp that first year.
Yes, sir.
We had guys that came into camp, 2 of the guys that had been on 2 different outfitted hunts and never had an opportunity.
Never even drawn their bow
paid
back.
Mega money. And one of those individuals, because we encouraged them, because their season actually opened prior to the adventure camp. And I encourage, go get here early, go hunt. You have the tools that we've given you. Yeah. Use them. If you don't, and you struggle a little bit, then that's something to bring to the table and let us help you work through once you get to camp. Shoot. One of our guys goes out on day 1 and kills an elk on his own with the tool set that had never killed with an outfitter, right? Yeah. So, but here was the thing that the coached hunts, man, it just grew in form, because me listening to my coaches, because we're a team. That's another thing that's different, right? So, for example, we take tips. We work our butts off, man, and I pay everybody what we can pay out of that. But if you take a look at what we pay, what the cost of our tags are, and what we have to put out there and pay for everybody, we don't make any money off that hunt, especially at 6,500. So the next year, we were like, well, we got to change this, and we went to 7,000. We added another $500 in there, right?
Right.
But the thing was our coaches, when they give us tips, they don't give a tip to Guy, and they don't give a tip. They put the tips in. We are a team, and we get all those tips, and we split it up, because they're going to be with different coaches throughout the hunt, right? Yeah. And that's part of that seasoning and that speciality that they get from that. So, but the thing is, we did this on public land, national forest, and we're limited in tags, which limited us in the amount of hunting we could do with people. And we had, that first year that we did those 4 hunts, the first day we did it, they sold out, right?
They did, yes, sir.
Right? They were like, people. So we did that for 3 years on national forest, and people do not know the nightmare of trying to work with national forest. They do not. They're not about helping businesses do things there. It's like,
they ain't pro outfitters.
It's just not. there's so many hoops, and it's a moving target. And I've been fortunate because the people I've worked with at that Cuesta district have been phenomenal, helping me get through it, right? But it's just the whole bureaucracy that goes with it, right?
And
It's
then not understanding what the program is.
correct.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
the program's never been done, and that was the thing is I had to go get an outfitter's license, and we're not outfitting. In outfitting, you supply a place for them to sleep. You supply the vehicles, you supply the food, you do all of this stuff in outfitting. We are consulting, we're teaching, and so we could have actually done that, but it would have been where we would have ended up in court because we were outfitting. You know what I mean? They'd have said that we were guiding without a license, blah, blah, all of this stuff. So instead of doing that, we jumped those hoops early, got the outfitter's license, got all of the coaches to become licensed guides so that we didn't have to worry about that part of it. But you're right, the model is what nobody is used to. So it's completely revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
So we did that. We did that for 3 years. And then once we really got this formed out and we really learned from things we learned from every camp that we have, right? How to do this. And divine intervention, people that listen to us have heard about Carl Gamage and everything that where it started, with Carl in the Martinez Canyon, and the first place I ever met Gil, and ever since Carl lost that, once we started doing this, I was always trying to find a way that we could get the lease to that property. And let me tell you, when I first tried to do it, I wasn't ready for that, man. What was I going to do with it? I wasn't mature enough in this whole process, right? But after 3 years of doing it, and then what our network has done with people like Guy and man, Chico and all these guys, man, my homeboys here in Cimarron, our own crew, and then other guys that we've either coached or worked with in Hunt Wars or that have followed us, that we are pulling in incredible people to make them ElkBros coaches. And so that now, this last year, things just happened in a way so that I was hoping we would get one piece of private property to alleviate the whole national forest thing, and so that we could do so many different hunts with different people on different times and have it in a way that's more controlled, because we can control the environment where we stay. We don't have to worry about all of these things. We can have things that are always there, right?
And we don't have to keep it a secret anymore where we hunt.
Yep.
So I want to talk about what Gil asked about in terms of the calling, right? And it's going to tie in. This is a Joe Gillia episode, but it'll tie into what I want Joe to fill in. And I think it's important for folks to really understand, right? This is not a guided hunt, right? And one of my things was you need to be fit for duty, so to speak, right? And I was out with one of our hunters, and he just couldn't call. Like he just couldn't call, right? We want all the guys to have a good experience, and we want them to have some confidence while they're out there, so they're not looking at us wondering why we're not doing something. So what we started doing was in-camp sessions. If we see a weakness, we need to work on that weakness right now. We have, a week with you. So we spent the night out. We had some encounter, the night before, spent the night out, and he was calling. I go, man, we're going back to camp. And he looks at me. We gotta sit down and work on this calling. So
dude, he's 3 miles out from camp, right?
Yeah. They're 3 miles away. Yo.
And it's a hard thing to do, right? It's a hard thing, and we're on limited ground. We know there's elk here, and I don't want to blow up the situation, which can absolutely happen. They're going to get uncomfortable. They're going to move away. Let's not ruin this, right? And that was the lesson. Let's do this. Let's go back. Let's build some confidence, and then we'll get back out here when you're ready. So we spent the entire afternoon calling. Gil comes in. Gil's helping with the calling. RC and Chav are there.
Had everybody, right?
Everybody ends up in camp, and we're working on calls, right? And it was the best scenario that you could ask for. It was basically walking into the classroom with the whiteboard. Let's hear it. We can see facial motion. We can watch your tongue. You know, too much pressure, not enough pressure, way too much lung, and really hone in on the lack of experience. But my point for Joe is, and I want Joe to talk about this, is there's so many different skill levels.
Right.
And there's so many different modules that folks can learn from, right? Some folks are coming in with limited experience, and maybe a little bit of success, maybe some success on the outfitted, you know, guided side. Why is it important, Joe, for when they come in to kind of leave everything that they have learned previously kind of to the wayside, maybe less the woodsmanship? Why is it important for them to digest the entire pyramid and really put that time into those coach sessions, you know, when they have that opportunity?
Because you're going to fall into your, you know, your lowest level of training sometimes, right? And what ends up happening, and I see it still in camps. I still see it. I mean, and that's what's so cool is each of the camps has, like, when you guys did that, you know, when you guys pulled in and we started having that training, that became actually a model. Whereas in this camp this year, it was day one. We started them out calling in front of everybody, right?
Yeah.
And
like I said, man, Guy, the evolving of what you brought forth as a coach, it really rang home, and Joe changed it. And this year was absolutely extraordinary to see how these guys started out.
Oh, it was,
but it's because of what we did the year before, and you know, starting that whole thing for us by going, man, this, and bravo, brother, because, you know, I want, for lack of a better word, I want to do the same damn thing. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys have got to be able, it's so important. We pound on them during our sessions, but it ain't enough. They don't really understand being able to make the basic sounds.
One of the biggest lessons and that I learned out of all of this really is you can, man, they can learn to tweet every bird noise there is out there, right?
Yeah.
But knowing
what to say,
when to do it, where to
Yeah.
do it, and the cadence of doing it is not something that you can do by sending sounds back and forth. And it's not something that you can do in a 3-minute video. It's something that has to be experienced, right? Just that pace, the pace of what it is. And there's a pace in everything, right?
Well, then it's the pressure too, right?
For sure,
and we noticed that. I
Pressure
noticed that
burst
with the
pipes.
shooting, right? And that was my thing. Hey, be ready. As soon as we hit camp, you told me that your effective kill range is 60 yards.
Yep.
We're sending them, right?
As soon as they get there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as you get there, I
So-
want the pressure on you.
Out of all of that, right? So now we get not one lease of private property, but 2 leases of 2 phenomenal properties.
Right.
And man, be careful what you wish for, right? So now we're able to run multiple camps of multiple coached hunts in 2 different locations. And the way that we designed this is all from what we've learned about these things where people do struggle, where they are going to get the most benefit. So now when they come into an ElkBros Adventure Camp, a coached camp, it is a 7-day deal, right? So they get there on day 1 by noon, 1 o'clock. And here's the thing about when you guys said that it's not a guided hunt, they come with their own gear. They come with their own sleep system. They come with their own travel, right? Their own transportation. We want them bringing their ATV or their side-by-side, right? We want them, or their e-bike or whatever they're going to be on. And we want everything that they're going to use DIY. Now, one thing that we changed because we were licensed outfitters, and one thing that I found that I love, and that the best part of elk camp is the camaraderie. So we're like, yes, we are going to cook meals so we can all eat together, right?
Yep.
And have that camaraderie. So we do provide the food and the meals now, other than what they're going to use when they spike out, because we coach them about spiking out, having the gear for doing that, having their food, being able to cook. So all of that is coached and taught. So when they come into camp, they get there at noon. The first thing they do is they go get settled with their camp. As soon as they're done, we're hitting the range for the proficiency test. We're going to start doing calling immediately. We're going to start doing scenario shooting. We're going to start doing scenario calling. We're going to start working on the pace of what it sounds like, what it looks like, how we're choosing to get. So as soon as they get to camp, they are in situational, actual coaching at that time for the rest of that half a day. What's your question, boss? I see a question.
Why don't we provide a wall tent and a cot?
Because they need the stuff that they're going to use so that they can identify the failure points in their equipment on an actual hunt in a controlled environment before they're DIY on their own.
Right, because a lot of people won't consider a wall tent or their side-by-side or their e-bike part of the hunt or an issue that can arise on the hunt.
Oh,
if you drive
dude.
2,300 miles, it's going to be an issue.
Look, I got on my e-bike for the first time and discovered, I can't have that basket that close to my rear end because I hit that first hump and it's rearranging things, right?
Or if you're going to be in the southern country and you got thorns and cactus, you better have a system on that e-bike that can absorb some thorns. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing or patching or all those other things.
And the best thing is you're in a place where you have a support system, right?
That's right.
You're not on your own. So you have people that have gone through this for any kind of medical thing that comes up, any kind of situation you get caught in the woods to be able to train you on that. So it's more controlled, right?
Joe, we rolled a wheel bearing off this year, Joe, and had to get picked up on the side of on a very sketchy mountain. We rolled a wheel bearing off and had to ride that thing down, and we finally make it to the bottom. And luckily, because we had such good communication with camp, somebody was able to come rescue us. But you're always going to find those modes of failure,
right?
Because this mountain don't give a gum.
And you put your tent out there and you put it in a situation that you come back and everything's flooded and wet when it rains or you get a hailstorm. So it's all these things that we can teach people because we done been through it, right?
Absolutely.
When we see them do their setup, we can go, in fact, before they do their setup, we're talking about, well, I tell you what, I'd have a tarp over my tarp, right? So,
yeah. And Joe, explain to everybody when they come to an adventure series hunt or adventure camp hunt, those tags are guaranteed, right?
Yes, sir. Yes. So now, because we have private property, we have guaranteed tags. So that's all part of their purchase on their hunt, right? Now we're having to pay for a large lease. We're having to pay now multiple coaches out there. And now we have multiple people in the funnel, as far as what's happening ahead of time. So we've had to make some changes there and streamline that a little bit. But they get in there that first half day, they're getting coached. Immediately the next morning, we're doing a gray light session. They're getting up, we're hitting it. And I'll tell you this, when we're doing these sessions, these guys have to have their broadheads ready. They got to be ready, because doing these sessions, you could have an animal come in on you, right?
And you will.
Yeah, so they got to be ready. But we're doing all of this prior to them actually going with a coach on the actual hunt, which is a 5-day hunt. So we're doing a day and a half of scenario, pacing, shooting from different situations. We're wanting to work with archery in motion, and actually in both sites put up a situation where you have an elk moving through the woods. You have to stop, you have to draw back, stop that animal, and pop that animal, right? You've got to make sure that your setup's right. You got to check your shooting lanes. So we want to put them in actual, as much real life situations as possible. We want them to hear elk out there responding to them, and then determine how they're going to respond. We're going to put them in that, right? You know, even though we got coaches in the field that are now the elk, we're going to teach them because they hear that. How do they respond? What are you going to do? What are you hearing? How are you going to move? Before they even get out in the woods. And then when they get in the woods on day one, when they're with their first coach, they're almost in that point still in what we call teaching guide mode, because the coach is going to take them and let the hunters see their pace, what they're doing, and they're telling them the whole time why they're doing this, why I'm doing this call, what I'm looking for, why I'm calling more because the woods got thicker and the time of day has changed, so the wind has come up, right? Why I'm doing this particular strategy. So in day one, unless that person is really showing the skill set, because the more the athlete shows the skill set, the more the coach gets to go into partner coach mode, right? But the more they're struggling, the more we got to show them what it's like to give them that example. But by day three, our goal is for that person to be the one saying, you know, Joe, bull reacted, I want you over here, I'm coming up, you call for me back there. And then we're hand signaling back and forth. So now it's 5 days of it's on, and you actually have an ElkBros coach who's going to become your partner out there and your coach to mentor you. So the education that you get, and if I have a coach that goes, oh, we got out there and I called this bull in for them, I'm like, why? Why weren't they calling, man? We're doing just the opposite of what most guides want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, most guides are so goal-oriented, they just want that person to succeed. Now, we want them to succeed, absolutely.
Yeah, and the first day that we spend with them, generally, we're kind of running the hunt where they can see what our cadence looks like, what our,
absolutely.
You know, so we are calling, and it does happen, like Joe said, we're going to call some bulls in. First of all, we understand where the bulls are. We also understand how to make that happen. So I can't tell you, the guys that hunted with me this year, they're like, I've been here for 5 days and I ain't seen an elk, right? And I've been with you for 3 hours and we got multiples responding and bulls in the set. And I'm like, man, guys, listen, it don't happen that way all the time, but when it does, it's awesome. And you guys need to understand that this can happen for you too. And the reason why it is happening is because now I'm cow calling and you're calling the same way, and we're partner calling now, right? So, and we worked on all of that, you know. It's an evolution of what season 1, 2, and 3 has become, and it is absolutely on fire. And now Joe we've gotten our private ground, and we can take out an element of that public land hunting that can upset some things at times. And look, man, Joe and I've hunted public land for a very long time. Joe way longer than I have, and Guy has too. There are some times where you're getting in a set and just hunt happens, right? I mean, there are other hunters out there that are hunting the same animals, and they're going to come in there and maybe booger some things up for you, and they're just trying to do their thing, man. They're chasing bugles just like you are, so we can't fault them for that. Now on our private ground, we'll be able to control a little more of that environment where we don't have as much of that going on.
But you still got to work with the animals that you have, man.
100%. 100%.
And then there's the element of the other campers and the other coaches, right? So,
right.
So I don't want people to think, well, if we're hunting private ground, I'm going to miss that public land experience type thing that I'll have to deal with.
Right.
Joe and I, what was it, the second year? And the night we spiked out, I mean, we were within half mile to a mile of each other, and I'm calling, Bob and I are talking to bull. I could hear Joe calling over here, right? So you do get those elements. We will end up crossing ground.
Oh, for sure.
And not only that, here's the cool part, man.
We have state land on all around us.
It doesn't happen on one of our properties because it's surrounded by nothing. You can't get a public land tag in that one property. It's surrounded by large private ranches as well. But in the Martinez, where we're at, we
Solid.
actually can have our hunters apply for the draw. If they put in early enough with us, they can apply for the draw. So now they can actually go beyond the borders onto public land as well. You can continue to chase. You get one on you, you can go. You get one that's off of, you can go after it, and it comes up. I mean, it's
Miles.
that, yeah.
Miles and miles and miles of country. Ask me how I know.
So it's a really cool situation like that. And elk, man, and that's the thing about it is our border's on two sides. Above us on one of those properties is private, and that ranch had charged twice as much as what we charged. But on the side you got public land with public hunters pushing elk, you're pushing elk, so it's the same experience you have like when you are on the public side pushing them on private, waiting for them to come over the other way, right? I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been on the huge private ranch up north of us and had bulls that I'm chasing go over onto public. We're done. We can't go. Right? And then I've been on the public side where I've chased them back onto the private. We're done. We can't go any further. So
Another unintended consequence of that is you'll be in that situation if you're DIY public. There's going to be a bull that's sitting across that 3-strand, and you are going to want to call them in. And I mean, that's the perfect scenario.
Absolutely. And
you can do it.
And you can do it
do
because we've made a living at doing that, man.
Yeah.
And in fact, the first bull that Gil ever killed with me
Right here.
called that bull over from probably a mile off of private land, jumped a fence, came over to us, and he shot that bull at 40 yards, right? So it's absolutely, and that's the thing is, that's one thing as a public land hunter that I've been in situations where you hear all those animals on private, and how many people go, man, I wish I was over there. And I'm like, you know what? I have the skill set to make the elk wish they were over here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the
we
thing.
We made it happen multiple times this year, man. I called a lot of bulls in over there off of private land, and we've done it. You and I've done it, Joe, for many years, being on private land. And I mean, it is fun to do. You got to have some stars line up. Not the biggest bull I killed, but I killed a really big 6x7 with Joe one night, and he called that bull. I guarantee you he was a mile and a half when he started, and then he went in a wallow, and we heard him down in there. We're up on the side of a ridge, and he calls that bull across the fence and up a side of a ridge, and we end up shooting him. It's the closest shot I've ever made. It's like 36 yards, and I'm telling you, it was awesome, but a lot of people would give up and they just wouldn't go close to those boundaries and have that issue because they don't have the calling skill set that Joe, myself, or Guy has. And Guy, he possesses a skill set that's phenomenal. These guys are really good callers, and that's the cool thing about being in our camp. We don't just get a coach. You don't just get a coach. You get an entire team, Joe.
You get a team of coaches.
Right? Yep. A team of coaches that are, man, I'm telling you, I'm fighting hell with a water pistol with these guys.
I don't know gear like Guy Duplantier does because I've always been a make-doer. But this guy can tell you because he works with, reviews every friggin' piece of gear that you can think of, right? He's a gear guru. So
I got a friend of mine reached out to me this past week. He's going on an Alaskan trip to go hunt caribou and brown bear and stuff like that. And he goes, man, and he's going to be elk hunting too. And he said, man, what do y'all use for your, spike-in trips and stuff like that as far as a pack? And I'm like, dude, you're talking to the wrong dude, man. We hunt out of a base camp, right? I said, but I'm gonna hook you up with the man. And I give him Guy's name and everything, and of course he's gonna Google, and he's like, dude, this guy is the man. I'm like, no doubt, bro. He goes, he ain't going to answer my call. I said, oh, he will if I call him. I said, I promise you. And Guy reached out and talked to him and set the dude up with the right stuff he's going to need. So, and that guy's he might hunt with us one day for sure, but that's the beauty of having one of our coaches, man. They help people. They help people get better.
So let me tell you about this look, it is a business for us, right?
Yeah.
But I have turned away hunters I've had
Yeah, we don't
people
do
that,
buttholes.
not well, and it had nothing to do with me a butthole, bro. It was like when I have somebody that their first question to me is, how many inches, in other words, how big of a bull can I kill, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and
What are
when
your bulls average?
yeah,
I
or
hate
it's
that
like, well, I
question.
have a bunch of 330s. I want a 350. Y'all have a when they start talking inches,
Yeah.
then it's not about learning how to hunt. It's about the
Right.
inches. It's not about the experience. And that's not what we're about. We're about, yeah, do we want to kill a mature bull? Absolutely. Look, y'all, man, I love chasing big bulls, you
Yeah.
know. But it's not about the inches with me. It's about the experience. It's about the passion. It's
Yeah.
about what you bring out of that, and
I heard Waddy talk about something today on TikTok, and it made so much sense about praying for T-Bone and stuff like that. He was like, I got all these trophies in my trophy room, but none of them matter. It really don't. It's just bones and inches and hair up on the wall. What really matters is the
the
relationships that I
memories and the
forged
relation.
with
Yes,
the
sir.
people that I've done this with over the last 25 years, man.
Absolutely.
Those are really the trophies. He said, I'm about ready to take all this down and just put pictures up of my partners that I've enjoyed these journeys with and stuff. Because
Absolutely.
they're the ones that matter. That
Absolutely.
rang so true for me today. I mean, I just saw it today, and I sent him a message, and I told him, I said, man, I don't know that I got any more out of anything I've ever read or heard in my life than I got out of that. You know, yeah, we all love our animals. I'm surrounded by them in here, right? But at the end of the day, man, for me,
Look at those
I
pictures up there
missed
on the
Guy
wall too.
Duplantier this year. I missed being around that dude this year. I missed. If I had to go to elk camp without Joe or Chav, we missed Chav when Chav wasn't with us in 2019, right? I mean it was not the same, and be able to have him there that last day was absolutely phenomenal. But like I said, we do this to build relationships and to create memories that'll transcend us. Not to
Absolutely.
get off on too big of a tangent. We lost a legend this week, man.
Yeah.
I mean, an absolute legend in Wayne Carlton, and
Absolutely, man.
the memories that man's made and the difference he's made in people's lives just by creating a way to communicate with the animals that we love, man, is man, it just transcends everything about hunting, and it ties everything that ElkBros Adventures is all about, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ginger.
no. Go ahead, boss.
I was gonna say it hit me pretty hard yesterday.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I couldn't. It got to the point where I was like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
Wayne gave me my first diaphragm. Had my first conversation about how to use a diaphragm, and gave me some pearls of wisdoms as a know nothing new elk hunter. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, hot dang, man, that dude, he did it for a lot of us.
yeah.
And
And that's his legacy.
Yeah, yeah.
Wayne inspired and got most of us to develop a passion and dream the
Generations.
dream because of the things that he did and gave to
Yeah.
us. So,
Yeah.
Hey, man,
That
we're
was
going to keep a whiskey glass full in elk camp every day for him and Carl Gamage, I promise you.
yeah. So and here's the thing that here was the one downfall for me of Elk Bros Adventures going to private land was I know we got to pay our bills, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We got to be able to pay our bills. We have a ton of people involved in this, and I've been a guide, right? And as a coach, what you're bringing to the table, I'm not saying guides bring any less, but as a coach, to be in that mode of teaching and sharing and doing that and taking to level, that's a
there's a
valuable
difference, Joe.
commodity
Yeah,
to have to pay for. And we got to be able to pay our coaches to be able to do that and to be away from home and to share this stuff and to do the stuff ahead of time. And then we have to cover. So for me, a $10,000 hunt is something that this retired teacher coach still can't afford, right? Myself. So for me, I really struggle. even though I know, I mean, I've guided on a ranch that is 20K. I've guided there for 10, 11 years, and they have a waiting list for 3 years out at 20K. And I know there's a lot of people with, that have the money to be able to afford this, right? But for me, I struggle because I would want other people like myself, and Carl Gamage gave me that opportunity to be able to hunt on that ranch without paying. And I want other people to have the opportunities to hunt this. So, but I still have to pay bills. And so for me, the problem was, how do I get other people? I want to do scholarships. We want to do a nonprofit so that we can have people donate for young people to come and hunt on these hunts. We actually have a half off discount for somebody that pays full price and brings a kid. We give them half off for that, just to get that involved. But I was like, how do we open up that opportunity? And what I came up with was it was kind of inspired by Steve Chappell out there, because they do that deal in Arizona where, people pay in, and then if they draw, their hunt is taken care of. So basically numbers. It's like a community can pay for that. So I came up with the idea of the ElkBros Adventure Club. And what the Adventure Club is a subscription. And for $325, because we figured what it would take with numbers and everything to pay off the bills, for $325, what most people, probably less than what most people pay when they buy points and put out for what they're trying to draw in a year, right?
Yeah.
So they get a subscription for $325, and in that amount, they get the base camp. They get our members only seminars and webinars when we put those on. They get a free product. We draw for free products once a month for 8 months out of the year. They get a free gift. They also, I'm putting all of this stuff that they're getting out of it. So basically, they're getting an education for a year for the money they're putting in for this. And for every 32 members, we draw one hunt out of that membership, out of that 32-person membership.
There's no better odds in the country. and Joe, what blows me away is the discount codes they get with their membership.
And I didn't even mention that, man.
Yeah, man, you will pay for your membership if you just use the discount codes to purchase your gear, man.
Yeah, they go inside that membership. They get, 30% off of 2.0 gear. They get 40% off Carlton calls. We have all 30%, 20%, discounts that they can get on incredible gear and products that, dude, will pretty much pay for their basically their subscription price, right?
Yeah, you buy a jacket, a merino wool hoodie, two pairs of pants, man. You done paid for your whole daggum membership. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you get the base camp pretty much for free, which is hundreds of years worth of educational advice on how
that's
to
that's
kill
$100
elk, man.
camp. So away, you're $325 down to $225.
$225.
You buy your jacket off for 30% off. Now you're down to $125, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't forget your pursuit poncho.
Exactly. We got a pursuit poncho in there too, man.
Absolutely.
It's 20% off, right, guy?
I was checking to see what that discount for adventure.
Gotcha.
I thought I did more for adventure camp.
I think it's 20.
But the pursuit poncho is one of the gear pieces that we're giving out once a month.
Away. Yeah.
Right. You know? So the whole idea was, okay, for what most people are putting, it's not even most people. Some of the people, because there's a lot of people putting a lot more out there, but what some of the people are paying to apply and try to get into a draw in other places, if they don't draw, that's it. They just lose it, right?
Yeah.
Some of the parts of it,
something.
sometimes you get refunded back, but you're not going to get the small game license. You're not going to get the point, all this stuff you pay for. So what we wanted was for what they do, instead of just seeing that gone, we wanted them to get the value of the education. so that they can then go on an OTC hunt and have that, have that knowledge set. Or once they draw with us, dude, now they can, they can take all that experience and they're going to be even more ready when they get there to come with us. So, and what we do is we do 32 block. So once we have 32, we're going to have a draw. And that's one thing that we have described differently on there, because I want to make sure we had a 32 by a certain time, right? But if we do 32, they stay in that block. We get another 32, we draw from that block, okay?
Yeah.
So we're going to do that annually. And they're going to, then they have their subscription for a year that's going to help them, and they get to attend all the things that we do, right?
Sorry. We've been talking about that experience as they come into either adventure camp,
right,
or with the adventure club. Now, there's more. This goes on, right? I mean, we're still coaching and talking to and helping and providing insight to the first year campers.
Season 1, yep.
To this day.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then to see those campers build those bonds, and now they're teaming up and partnering with a guy that was in the same year adventure camp. Now you got two guys that, knew a little, knew nothing, knew a whole lot, and came and got fortified. Now they're hunting together. Now there's a stronger DIY team, and they're coming back to the resource year after year after year after year. Yep. Huge benefit in that, right? So when you start going back to the finance part of it, when you look at, that initial investment, call your guide or call your outfitter that just does that normally. Are you able to call and say, bro, I need a pointer, this is where I'm at? You're going to get on the phone. Joe and I were on DM today with a gentleman, right? Joe's like, hey, send me a 3-minute video.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't send it to Guy anymore, because we're not going to.
And he's never, I don't even know if he's a member of base camp. He's never done anything with us. It's just, right, is somebody that is a great individual that follows us, right? And, he sent the cool video listening to elk, and then he did a bugle and a chuckle. And as soon as I heard the chuckle, I was like, you're pretty dang close. Send me a video. Let's work on that, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's a huge benefit, man. Where else are you getting that? And essentially for free.
Yeah.
100%. And Guy, you hit it right on the head. Many of our guys are now using ElkBros coaches when they go on DIY stuff. They'll call Joe or myself and say, hey, can I drew this tag in unit 10 or wherever, and we'd really like to have so-and-so coach us on this hunt, come in and help us, and help us find some elk, help us call a little bit, whatever it may be. It's happening more and more.
But there's a limit on that, right? Because in any of that, when it comes regular units, you have to be registered in those areas, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole process to that. So we are limited in the areas that we can do things like that with. And really, as we do this first year, that's like I had to tell some of our fellas, man, I don't know that we're going to have coaches available, for public land this year until we get this off the ground, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right now, it's all hands on deck, because we want this to be a model. We want this to be a model program that can be done on any kind of place, right? So,
Joe, talk about the 2 properties that we've acquired.
Yeah, so the one that we know the best, because we spent years and years on it, is the Martinez Canyon Cow Camp, right? That's owned by the CS Properties, right? This is a working cattle ranch in the off season. This is a family that's one of the oldest cattle families in the area. This cabin is historical that's out there. This property is just, to me, it has everything that we talk about. It has the faces for the bedding. It has the creeks with the water. It has the grass for the feed. And it has all the feeders all around it. And, it's just it is unbelievably beautiful, but it's so situated. the way that the acreage is and where the cabin is, that you just walk out of the cabin to hunt, man. And it's just so cool. And the experiences that we've had on there. Now, that chase, that's the Martinez. Then we got the Chase Ranch. The Martinez is about 7,000 acres there, surrounded. And then the Chase is 11,000 acres. And the Chase Ranch, if you don't know anything about the area of northern New Mexico, go look up Vermejo Park Ranch. And where the Chase Ranch sits, it has Philmont Scout Ranch to our west. It has Vermejo Park to our east. It has the Poe-Neal Ranch to our north. And it has Express Ranch to our south. Some of the biggest elk hunting ranches around that, man, I mean, in order for you to hunt on Vermejo, that's 20K. And so the genetics and the animals that we have on that property can be phenomenal. And I don't have as much. This is going to be our first year hunting it. Now, one of our guys, one of our coaches that's going to be with us has been guiding on that, and he will now be an ElkBros coach this year. He's so excited about that because he just has that nature about him, and we've already been working together a little bit. But he is so excited about how we're going to do things differently on that property. You know, we're going to do some really cool things on adding some water in there. We're going to do some spiking out in there. And I drove the ranch the other day, and it is a big place, man, and it is so cool. I mean, it's just I'm really excited to get to know it, and which I'm going to be doing in the next few months. But the gentleman Jose that has been guiding there, he hit me up and he's like, bro, I really want to work with you guys. He says, I love the Chase. I just love this place. It is phenomenal. And with some of the things that you guys are talking about doing, this place is going to be even better. So it's exciting. That's really exciting. And man, we haven't even begun to talk about the other animals that are on the place. You know,
yeah,
that's like,
I was going to say we have an opportunity to do some combo hunts.
Oh man,
lots of turkeys, mule deer, bear. I mean, crazy what's available there.
Absolutely. So they're really something else, and it's so exciting. And putting this all together is just really cool.
Well, when Carl lost it, 10 years ago, Joe and I, man, we prayed for the last 10 years that we'd have an opportunity to get the Martinez back. I mean, it's truly home for both he and I. We've hunted the outskirts of it for many years, and we could look over and only hope for, the last few years. And now, I mean, we're home, buddy. And I'm telling you, I can't wait to put my feet there on the ground.
We hunted the borders on public land. So we hunted, and not just the border. We hunted all that public land that would be to the east of the property. We hunted inside that. And gosh, I mean, I think the last 3 years we hunted together in that property, we were 80%. We were like 4 out of 5, we killed 4 bulls in 4 days. Public land. 4 bulls in 4 days, man. So
and saw probably close to 500 head of elk. It was absolutely epic.
It's great country. Northern New Mexico is great elk country. But if all that you're thinking about is, we want you to, I guarantee you, I want you to be successful. I want you to think every day that you go in the woods that you can succeed, right? You've got to believe that. Every day I go in the woods, I'm going to kill an elk. That's what I believe. I might not, but I believe that, right?
I believe if I have an opportunity, I'm going to do it. That's
absolutely,
for sure.
Man.
Yeah.
And, so... And look, I consider this a lot like when I coach athletes, man. You come out there, it's your freshman year. Your freshman year, it might still need a lot to put that together, just like a kid in high school, man, in an athletic program. Sometimes you got super sophomores and super freshmen that just get it, and they're dynamite, and they make it happen. But sometimes it might take that 4th year before you are really solid, and you've got this down, and you feel like you can knock it out of the park anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So, I just can't say enough about the program, man.
I think it's excellent. And one thing you just said, right, is we want you to be successful. But I really feel like what we're doing here redefines, sounds cliche almost saying it, but it redefines what success looks like.
Sure.
Right? Because,
agree.
you hear it all the time, oh, successful because I got a call. And this really, really capitalizes on that, right? You'll start to, the first couple of days of camp, you're going to realize that what that word truly means when you're up against this critter, right? And it's different for everybody, right? And yeah, cherry on top of the success pyramid, we'll say, is arrowing a bull and being able to harvest that good old meat. But man, I really feel like it redefines what success looks like over time.
When I, as a guide, bring an animal in for somebody and they shoot it, I'm very happy for them. But I'm really happy too because I accomplished something, a goal for them to get it, right? And I'm congratulating them, shaking their hand and stuff. But when they bring a bull in from what they've learned from me,
Yep.
dude, I mean, like Jonathan,
Over the moon.
in fact, you guys make sure you watch Hunt Wars this Wednesday. Jason Douglas from season 3. This is a guy that followed the playbook. Him and his buddy, man, those guys. And so when I'm with somebody that they get it done with their skill set, I'm dogpiling that because
Absolutely.
I am like, I'm gonna have tears in my eyes, you know. And Luis came to me one time on I think it was our second year, and he comes to me, he says, Joe, man, he said, we're doing this. If these guys don't kill an elk, if they're not successful, how is this a success? And I'm like, Luis, if you call an animal in for somebody and they kill it, they punched a tag, but what did they learn?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I said, I tell all my coaches, at the end of the day, if you can ask yourself, is my guy a better elk hunter on his own than when he came here? Is his skill set better than when he came here? And you can say yes, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I agree. 100%.
And if you look at if you hunt with me, I'm just saying, and you look at me and you act like you don't know what to do, this is what I'm gonna do on the fourth day. Tell me what to do.
Yeah. Right.
I did it. What do you want me to do? Like,
Right.
tell me what to do here, right? Like that.
But you're going to get them to that point, right?
I'm gonna get to that point, but I'm not going to enable you the entire time.
Exactly.
Because that's one of the big factors, right? We were talking about calling being a huge factor or a weak point or a failure point for a lot of these guys. I'm going to say, if it's not right there with it, it's just below it, is decision making.
Sure.
In the heat of the moment, right? And that's one of the biggest things that I want to see guys walk away with if they're hunting with me, is their ability to make the decision when it matters the most.
Yeah,
I've had people that I've coached that knew what to do when that animal stepped out, knew that they've been practicing so they can judge a distance out to 30 yards, knew that when that animal comes, they have to draw on that animal first thing when it comes out on that. But because of the intensity of the moment, they still reach for a rangefinder and then at 30 yards and then watch that animal walk out of their life, a failure point, right? And it's not like they weren't coached.
Or don't even draw their bow.
Well, how many kids have you coached? And here's what we always say, man. I can give kids all the skill set to be on that floor. I can give them the offense. I can give them the defense, but they still got to play the game, right?
I can't hit them. I can't hit the ball for them.
Nope. Absolutely.
I can't take the bat out of their hand and hit the ball for them. When they watched 3 strikes go by, they were not prepared to do the job. Their job is to swing at every good pitch they see, take 3 big hacks, and if we watched all 3 pitches go by, part of that I feel like's on me. I didn't prepare them well enough, right?
But-
So for us to take on that responsibility when you coach somebody, you got to be willing to take the failures along with the successes, right? And for us as coaches, we just always seem to evolve out of this even better the next year. And that's what I really love about this program is we've been able to get better and better and better every year to take our hunters to where they're at a new level when they leave. Even when they showed up and couldn't do anything, right? They're better off. They're better off having the failure. Yeah, did they need to draw their bow? Sure. Did they draw it? No, but I promise you probably the next time they get the opportunity, they're going to know because like Guy said, situational experiences. There isn't. There's nothing you can do to put them in that type of pressure cooker unless they're in it, and that experience breeds success and it breeds failure too.
And a lot of people would have looked at that guy pulling that up and the elk walking out and go, oh, he failed. But you know what? Prior to that, he didn't have the skill set to put himself in the position to be there,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
So, I mean, created an incredible opportunity, an opportunity that he will never forget in his life, man. To have
And one he can learn from. Do what, bro?
That move.
Yeah. And one he'll never forget. One that'll haunt him. One that will drive him.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember the first couple years I elk hunted. It just drive me nuts. I mean, I can thread the dadgum arrow through the eye of a needle, man. And You wound a couple animals. It's like, what in the world is going on here, man? This sucker's as big as a bus, and you draw the arrow back and thong, you hit him right in the hump. It's like, what happened here? It's an humbling experience. So when we're coaching guys, I've had to put that coach hat on and not be a guide. Every one of us has done some sort of guiding. I come from the background fishing and hunting both whitetails and whatnot, and we get used to doing it for them. We get used to making the opportunity happen. That's not what we do here, man.
Yeah.
We coach you into the opportunity, and then we let it unfold in front of you, and then hopefully you've gained the knowledge that you've had through base camp, through our coaching sessions, through the time in the woods, and you learn how to finish. But Joe's so correct in teaching the finish and then letting all of that flow down from there, right? I think it's a powerful way to teach. It's something that I'm on board with. And I mean, it's so cool to watch our hunters go through it. First year from third year.
Oh man,
it's been phenomenal.
It's
man.
cool.
And look, it's not something that we sat down and took lightly. We had scrutiny. And look, man, I blew Joe up for the second. I'm not going to lie. This was something that we had hard conversations about our second year of doing this, man. I mean, poignant, hard conversations nose to nose about this. We got to get better. And we love each other enough where we can have conversations like that. And he respects me enough and I respect him enough to bounce that off. But when we have feedback from Guy Duplantier, Luis Gonzalez, Manano, RC Knox, we got to get better and look within ourselves and what we could change. We can't be, pride don't have no spot in this game. We have to get better. And until we can look inside ourselves and get better at how we coach, and how we coach our adventure campers, that's the only way we can get better, man. And again, I can't thank Guy enough for the scrutiny and it wasn't done with malice. It was done with, man, guys, we got to make this happen. It's got to be better, right? And Joe knocked it, and it didn't take Joe 2 weeks to figure that out, and he already had us a plan, So kudos to you, brother. ElkBros Adventure Camp is so pivotal if you're in the market for an elk hunt, you need to reach out to us. You can go to ElkBrosAdventures.com. And Joe, another part of ElkBrosAdventures.com is still working for the DIY guy, right? He can get with us and get his tag for a DIY hunt in New Mexico, right?
Oh, we sell tags. So
right.
we have unit-wide tags for Unit 53. So if somebody hasn't done a draw, we have tags that we can sell for them to. And if we end up with a situation where we do have a coach free, then that's something that they could do. And you don't need a coach if you don't want them the whole time. You might want them for 1 or 2 days, you know.
Yeah.
Might want them we do 3-day minimum with our coaches, unless the coach has a situation where they can only do 2 days. But, you know, for it to be worth their while, it's generally 3 days. And it's $500 a day, and all they're doing is coaching you, man. You're bringing everything else. So, again, it's a DIY deal. And, you know, the other cool part about the private land, though, dude, is when most people are hunting rifle and muzzleloader in that first part of October, we're still doing archery hunts because those elk are still going nuts, man. You know?
And look, I've been privy to that. We used a muzzle loader, but dude, if we could have used the archery system, it would have been so awesome because those bulls are absolutely
It just gives us more
fire.
coaching opportunity is all it is.
It does. And the scenarios will be even bigger, right? There'll be even more opportunities to have those scenarios because the bulls are just going absolutely bonkers. They're not silent, right? You won't be hunting quiet bulls.
We're going to do our first ever rifle coached hunt this year. We're going to experiment with one of them. We're going to do that on the Chase Ranch. And then what happens when we get into rifle season is we transition from coached camps to teaching guides. So that's more of a traditional guide with our rifle hunters there, but it's at a whole different level of experience because we never want anybody that hunts with an ElkBros teaching guide or coach to ever feel like they're a passenger. We want them to be a partner. We want them to be a driver, right? And that's what's happening with our teaching guides is they are communicating. They're saying why they're doing it. They're talking about the strategies. They're including you in that process. They're raising that level of experience because we don't want you to be that person sitting in the back seat and wondering how you got to the mall, man. We want you to know exactly how you got to where you succeeded.
Well, that is the measure of our success with the entire program and its coaches, right? Because it's not about that particular hunt. The success for us is going to be measured over time. When you're away from camp, after you have that experience, and then how you proceed in those consecutive year hunts, however you choose to stake out on them. There's no other model like that, right? I mean, it's all about the camper's future success, not in the moment. In the moment matters, right? I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's about the future of your success, DIY, whatever that looks like. That's really where we're going to be measured at.
Oh, and I'll tell you something else because in DIY, but I've had guys as a guide. And guides talk about it all the time. They talk about their clients because you have some clients that you really have to be with to ensure that they can finish, right? You got to be right there. And then you have those clients that they get that experience where they know what to do once they get in that situation, and they really make it easy on a guide because they just go out and they get the job done, man. You get in a situation, now you can lay back. You can call this bull from right back here because that guy knows how to put himself in the best position for the shot. You have that trace, you have that faith in that person. They're a killer. Right? They know what to do. So I'm telling you, this skill set, it just pays in anything that you do.
Yeah, again, for guys that want to hunt with us, Joe. What does so you talked about it's $10,000, are those both ranches the same price?
Yeah, both ranches are the same price. We've kept it the same. I don't think one ranch is any better than the other. Both of them are incredible. We have some hunts that are what we call HD hunts. They're high demand hunts.
Yeah.
That those hunts are $1,000 more than just the regular hunts.
Right.
But then if you go if you go a 2-on-1, if you have a partner, and we encourage partners because we love to teach the partner process. That is so much fun, so that you guys can then go out and do this together, right? So if you do that, we kick another 1,000 off of it. So I would say our base price for hunts is $9,500, and if you end up with a 2-on-1 where our coach is coaching both of you at the same time, we don't do 2-on-1s of people that don't know each other, only partners. That's all we do. And if you do that, then that's going to be 1,000 off per person right there. If your partner is a youth, whether it's your nephew, niece, son, daughter, grandchild, friend, whatever, that's going to be half price. We want to get kids involved, all right? And we got some things coming up where we're going to be able to have some scholarships, because I really want a scholarship, first responders and young people. We want to find a way to get them out there where, they can have this experience, and we can help them have incredible experiences of a lifetime, right?
Yep.
So,
Joe, also talk about will be an opportunity too if the bear season's open for our guys that are in there hunting with us to have a bear tag.
Yeah. So what we do with that is most places will charge you a fee to be able to hunt that. We want people to take bears if they're on an elk hunt. So you buy the tag. And I think if you end up taking a bear, I think we have I think it's like an $800. I have to look, Gil, but I think
it ain't more than $1,000.
No, I think it's like an $800 trophy fee is what we call it, right?
Yeah.
It's basically to where most places it's going to be $2,000-$3,000.
Yeah.
No, we want you to take a bear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps with our conservation.
Absolutely,
it really does. It really helps our elk population.
There's no charge on the front. If you get a bear, great. We're happy, and we're going to have that fee for that, right? But if you don't get one, there's no cost for that, right?
Yeah.
So
just cost you the tag.
Yep, just cost you to get your tag.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think that's like $300 if I remember right. Like
$294, I think, is what I paid last time. It wasn't exorbitant. Guy, I wanted you to talk too about, this is kind of the second go around with you on our coaching side and stuff, but you've been with us as this has gone through inception. So when you came into camp, you probably didn't know really what to expect, but then after you've done so much with our campers in preparing them for adventure camp, tell me what it's like for a coach on the outside, or a guide, or even a DIY guy that wants to become an ElkBros certified coach. And tell me about how that process has been for you, and if you found it hard to do, or if you found it challenging, or you found it extremely rewarding.
Joe said, "I want you to do this," and that was all that needed to be said. I mean,
what Joe wants, Joe needs.
There's part of my day-to-day life where I do a ton of mentoring for a ton of people, right? In my position and what I do, and it's something that I enjoy. And I think that would be the only caveat, right? It ain't for everybody, right? Because as a coach, you go and you guide, and you may get frustrated. Like RC will tell you, when he stopped guiding, it was because he got upset with a client. Yeah. You can't have that mindset, right? You're here and you're focused on being that coach, that mentor, and really looking at the face of the challenges and understanding where you were in those challenges as a new elk hunter, a young elk hunter, however that looks. But you have to transfer all those lessons to that person. I think understanding that, for me, just because of my day to day, it was pretty easy. I think the biggest challenge with it, man, I don't see one. It's funny. You're going hunting with someone new. So there's a learning curve. But you ever had a bad experience hunting? You know what I mean? So it's really, I don't see, if it's me reflecting on my personality, and I can be a bit abrasive. I'm a little bit strong, and but it works, right? Yeah. And
not only that, you've grown and you continue to grow, and
right.
And I think that's all part of the process too. My job as a leader in this is to develop that team. And I can tell you, man, I mean, I've been developing teams for a long time, and everybody brings a skill set, right? And everybody has something that they can work on. And that's the great thing about the people the reason that Guy Duplantier is with us is because of his passion, his knowledge set, and his heart. Yeah. Anything else that might even be a possible deficiency, that's a workable, because this dude always wants to be better. Gil always wants to be better. I mean, you guys are strong men that have been in strong leadership positions, and sometimes to step back and go, I can see that takes people that care. And that's all I want. I want people that care, because if we are willing to make ourselves better, we can help other people be better, and we just get better at what we do. And man, I'm telling you, the reason that this has changed is because I have to learn from my people around me that, I don't know it all. This is something that has never been done the way we do it. And I got news for you. I do not believe anybody can do it the way we do it. I honestly believe that,
I agree.
But
it takes some special guys to be able to pull it off, man.
But do I hope and pray this model is done by other people? Absolutely, because it benefits human beings, it benefits the animals, it benefits the industry, and all of us win in something like this. So I sure hope that there's other people that end up doing stuff like this, because, man, I tell you what, it's a win-win. So, and fellas, I know we could talk about this all night, but I have to get up like at 5:30 in the morning to go to a show. So
yeah, me too. 5.5 hours to Utah, buddy.
Yeah.
I can't thank you guys for coming up and letting us talk about what's been really driving us the past couple of years. And like I said in the intro, Joe doesn't let me talk a lot about, what we do on the business side of everything, because we don't want to get bogged down on the podcast with, pimping what we do or gear or anything like that, man. We really want to teach guys about elk hunting, have everybody into elk camp. But I can't thank Joe and Guy and all our coaching staff, Jeremy Gilbertson, Chico Gallegos, Cole Wilkes, Eric Aragon, Luis Gonzalez,
Cody
RC
the
Knox.
Kid.
Yeah, Cody the Kid. All of these guys have banded together to make us what we are today. And, Joe's our leader. He's who mastermind this whole thing. We're bouncing stuff off of each other daily. Joe, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about before we go is our webpage at ElkBrosAdventures.com.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can book their hunt right there on ElkBrosAdventures.com.
Yeah, so what happens is they go in there and they fill out a booking form or a more information form if that's what they're looking for. So when they go in there and it says book your hunt, when they click on that, they can request more information if that's what they want to do. We get all that information, and then if they're ready to book, we book them, send them an invoice. If they are wanting more information or wanting a phone call, we do that as well. We want this to be something that works and fits for you. I got news for you. If it don't fit, I'm gonna tell you don't come. So
Well, and Joe was really cool. He and I went back and forth on this. He gives you an opportunity to pay this thing down in 3 different payments, man. So it's not like you got to come up with all of it in one shot. I thought, it's hard enough chasing one payment, and I'm like, man, we're gonna chase 2 or 3. But I've listened to the people that have bought hunts, and they're like, man, we appreciate the opportunity to be able to pay this out in installments. So yeah. Joe, kudos to you for setting this webpage up. Guys have told me, hey man, it's still, guys that aren't real computer savvy, a la me, sometimes it's not understanding which button to push. But if you do some scrolling and push on the right buttons, man, you can get to the adventure hunts. If you just go to the webpage and hit those 3 little bars, you'll see the scroll down menu come: trip planner, adventure hunts, adventure club, store and gear, contact us, ElkBros.com. I mean, all of those things are listed there. And Joe's got a members only link that'll be coming up. It's even cooler, man. I don't know if cooler is a word.
Yeah, our hunters are already getting that, man. So they have their own Elk Camp Central now. So
yeah. They have Elk Camp Central, man. We're looking forward to spending more time on the mountain this year in several different places. I know Guy Duplantier, we're going to try to kidnap him for a couple days and have him in camp with us this year and show him what New Mexico elk hunting's all about, man. And I can't wait. It's driving me every day. We're back training and getting after it, so it's cool. I'm gonna be the best Big O I've ever been.
Look at that.
Son. Look at Giles Svelte in his plaid shirt over there, man, and his Farmer Jack outfit.
I ain't got a shirt that fits me anymore.
Yeah, it looked like Omar the tent maker made him, huh?
Yeah,
dude, I put on a shirt and I'm like, this looks ridiculous.
That big head and 2-0 hat still fit though, boy.
That fits, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. I got enough of these damn hats to last me a lifetime.
Well, look,
I get
guys,
to see the boys this weekend too.
Do what?
I get to see the 2-0 boys this weekend too.
Yeah, I heard they're going to be in Salt Lake City, or yeah, man, that'll be awesome. Please give our love to Aaron and the crew. We love our 2-0 gear. If you guys are on any of our stuff, you see I'm wearing a 2-0 hat. Guys wearing a 2-0 hat. I mean, we got our own swag too, but man, we rep the guys that rep us for sure. And Aaron and his crew have done a phenomenal job of getting us our gear, and man, and it's just phenomenal gear. Am I wrong, Guy?
I live in it.
Yeah, I mean, my son, he fished a tournament this past weekend, and it was brutal cold. He called me on the phone. He said, Dad, this 2-0 gear is the bomb. Like, all my buddies are freezing to death, and I got on a puffy and a merino hoodie, and I ain't have no cold, Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't get that cold down here anyway, but it was in the high, mid-30s, so it was pretty chilly on the water. But, he loves the gear. So, shout out to 2-0 and the boys there. I hope everybody has a great show up in Salt Lake City. Joe's going to be doing the show. It'll be over with by the time this hits the air, probably, Joe. But tell them about the new show that you got, the one that we're going to be at in April.
Yeah, so April will be the first one. We'll be at the Mile High Hunt and Fish Expo up in Aurora, Colorado, right there at Denver Airport. That's going to be the bomb there, man. So looking forward to that.
You'll be there as well, right? Running the call competition.
They're going to catch the whole crew at that show. I'll be there. Gil sounds like the Venezuelans may be there, at least one of them.
Yes.
I know Knox is going to be there.
Yep.
I mean, that'll be
Travis O'Shea will be there.
We'll have the Canadian Mafia there for sure.
Canadian T-Dog.
T-Dog.
And then after that, we start rolling the Western Hunt Fest. So we'll be at those, man.
Yeah, man. And Guy, talk about a little bit about Western Hunt Fest, where they can find out more information about Western Hunt Fest.
WesternHuntFest.com, and on Instagram at Western Hunt Fest, or you can reach out to me directly and I can answer any questions. But come shoot the courses. Do the pack out challenge. Joe will be throwing some seminars. CRWM, Mr. Dan Gates will be there talking about conservation and how we can save the hunt, amongst other things. And then this year in Raton at the NRA Whittington Center, we have added our first rifle course. So we'll have a rifle course on Sunday as well as our 2 archery courses in the rest of the event. So
That's phenomenal, man.
Parlaying this event and taking it to the next level as well.
That's
More
so
education and preparation, right? I mean, that's really how we play all this forward.
Yep. So cool. Also, man, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Guy and his venture, his Capital Venture Western Fly Covers. If you guys have a chance, go to Western Fly Covers and check out his awesome fly covers, man. We ran his Pursuit poncho this year, all year. I'm still running it. Phenomenal gear, kept us dry all year. I mean, Joe, myself, RC, we shot several videos with it, man. It was a phenomenal piece of equipment all year long. So y'all check it out at Western Fly Covers. Is that right, Guy?
Yes, sir. WesternFlyCovers.com. Linked on ElkBros website as well, so you could hit that link and get over there and grab you a Pursuit poncho, a mountainside tarp, or a quartered fly, or a hex fly, and with God's good grace, I can get the teepee finished, and we'll have a teepee on there real quick.
That's it, babe.
That'd be awesome.
That's it. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate, and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and be sure to include your name and where you're from to get in on our Spinner Winter Wheel drawing. And you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. Just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on the show, just send your questions to Joe at ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting. Peace.
Peace, peace, everybody. Woo!
Where others fear is home to me. No boundaries for my soul. The pounding, the primal blood, driving hunger like no other, running through my veins. No man versus nature, only me versus me. A centuries old challenge, raging deep inside my soul. No anger, malice or evil, only a hunter and his prey. This is my life, country born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. Like a ghost unseen, tasting every scent, knowing with every breeze. The trail before me, the fire burning inside me. This is what we live for, honor, passion, and pain. This is my life, grinder born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know it's my day, my life. Don't think you know me, my life, no odds will own me, my destiny, my way. This is my life, runner born and raised. When that whistle blows, I'm on the trail, pounding in my head. There's a will, there's a way, there's a way, there's a way. This is my life, I know